It was November 2008. My wife and I were out on a date. It was actually a friend's 30th birthday party. Our 5-month-old son was at home. It should have been a great night. At some point, I found myself talking to a friend. She had just completed a race. I was proud of her. I congratulated her. A friend overheard us and said, "Clint, I don't think you could do that anymore." You may remember my last speech. I mentioned I'm a little bit competitive. I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. We had a bet very quickly. Some trash talking exchanged. We lined it up for a few weeks later. Luckily for me, it snowed, and my friend called off the bet. Not before he said, though, the look on your face when you knew you wouldn't be able to do it was enough for me. I was broken. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, today I'm going to talk about goals and resolutions, some of the challenges that we face in completing them, and the importance of taking that first step. What had happened? How had I gotten into the shape that I was in? I always had goals of being fit. I always set my resolutions at the beginning of the year to say, I'm going to get here. The problem was, not enough happened. At that point in my life, I didn't complete my goals. I didn't meet my resolutions. I reached out to a lot of people with us here today, and more than half of us had some of these same challenges. Some of the reasons that we don't complete our goals or our resolutions. We bite off more than we can chew. Other facets of life get in the way. It's hard to see the final possibilities or the eventual outcome. We don't feel like we have the physical capabilities or the resources to support us on the journey. So what changed? What did this drive? I was hurt. I was angry. I felt humiliated. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed beside my wife, feeling the pain of my friend saying that to me. And that night, I saw an advertisement for Iron Man. And I rolled over and looked at my wife and said, I'm gonna do this. She just looked at me and smiled and said, sure, okay. She was used to me having goals and dreams and things I was going to do. And then the next week they'd be gone. I wouldn't do them. This was different. I know, you're all thinking, wait a second. A couple weeks earlier, you had a running bet to just do a couple laps around the track and you couldn't finish that, and now you're saying you're going to do an Ironman. That seems crazy. Whenever I talk to people about the idea of going from couch potato to an Ironman, they always think those first steps are pretty crazy. If I told you what my first steps were, you would probably think it was crazy in the other direction. I bought some running shoes. I went for a bike ride around the block. I signed up for a swim class to get over my fear of the water. Most of my family would tell you there was zero chance I would get out of the swim. 3.8 kilometers in the water, 180 kilometers on a bike, and a marathon. I didn't start by running 10 kilometers every day. I didn't start by going for 100-kilometer bike rides on the weekend or going for a master's swim club. I started with very simple first steps. I took 2 years to get to the goal. And over that time, I slowly worked up what I was capable of doing, which was something different than I'd ever done before when I failed my goals. In the book Resilience by Eric Greitens, he writes letters to his friend to help him in life. And he recalls their days in the Navy SEALs, specifically in the trials to become a Navy SEAL. And he points out that almost nobody quit when they were actually doing something. They quit in those moments in between. They quit when they could think about what they were going to have to do. And that is something that tends to get in our way. Once they actually started the action, they were less likely to quit. Eric's takeaway from that was action. That's what I tend to focus on as well. In my last speech, I talked about what I view as my 3 pillars that help me in planning and in achieving my goals. Specifically, think about what you want to achieve. Create your vision. Understand how you're going to achieve it. Have a plan. Finally, do the work, day in, day out. Create your vision, have a plan, do the work. The other thing that I talked to my friends, family, and colleagues about that was the first thing I introduced then was the concept of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, starting with the end in mind. I know I'm talking about the importance of the first steps, and now I'm speaking about the end. What I'm saying, though, is once you have that end in mind, break it down. Break it down into annual goals. Break those down into quarterly goals. Understand what you have to achieve each month to get the quarterly goals, what you have to achieve each week to get the monthly. Break that down into daily goals. And then, for all of us on the call, once you have your daily goals, what is it that we should be doing right now in order to achieve that eventual goal? Mr. Toastmaster.